Buenos días, mis amigas.
Hi.
¿Cómo están? ¿Todo bien? ¿Podemos hablar en español hoy?
Yeah.
¿Cómo? ¿Qué pasa?
I understand that we have chicks.
You understand what I'm saying? And you have chicks. Yum. Are you going to eat them?
No.
What? They're not made of marshmallows?
Can I tell them?
That would be peeps.
I want to tell. I'm going to tell you their names. So,
Okay.
Dumpling,
Dumpling. That's cute.
Fluffy,
Fluffy. That seems appropriate.
Peep,
Peep.
Feather,
Feather.
Flap,
Flap.
Pizza,
Pizza.
Flower,
Flower.
Rose,
Okay.
and banana.
Banana. Wow. So many. Who's your favorite?
Dumpling.
Dumpling. I love dumpling. Are you ever tempted to eat dumpling because he's so delicious?
No, he's not delicious.
Okay.
I'll put the chicks away while you guys start to learn.
But you don't know where they go. I know exactly.
Then you can put them in their order later. For now, they're playing wildly in their little crate.
Okay.
So you guys excited to learn about Mexico?
Yeah.
Now, surely you know some things about Mexico from your friends, right?
Do you know what?
Maybe.
The United States is right above Mexico.
That's true. That's lesson number 1. The United States is right next to Mexico. What's the other country that the United States is right next to?
Canada.
Ding, ding. Any others that are close?
Haiti.
Yep. Haiti's close. So is Cuba and a bunch of the other ones over here in the Caribbean. But Mexico is very close, and it is very big. It is one of the biggest countries in the world. It's not as big as the US or Canada or Russia or China, but it is the 11th largest country in the world. You can see it here on this sort of top 20.
What is the smallest country in the world?
The smallest country? I don't know. There's a lot of really small ones. So there's a couple really big ones. So Mexico is one of the really big ones, but then there's like 50 or 70 really, really small ones. And I don't know their names because they're so small. And so few of them. Or so many of them.
Is Haiti one of the smallest?
It's not one of the smallest. No, they have 10 million people. So they have as many as Portugal. You know, so those are like medium-sized countries. They're not huge, but they're not tiny. And not only does Mexico have a lot of land, they have a lot of people too. So they're also in sort of the top 15 in terms of number of people. So they have a lot of land and they have a lot of people, unlike Canada. You know, in Canada, everyone lives by the border because it's up north, right? So they all want to stay near the warm weather. But in Mexico, it's near the equator. So it's all really comfortable or really hot. And you can see they've got desert and they have mountain and they have lots and lots of beaches and they've got forests. In fact, it's one of the most biodiverse countries in the world, meaning they've got lots of different plants and animals and all kinds of fun stuff, just like a lot of the countries down here in South America. Well, Latin America and South America.
Yeah.
So, do these look like your friends at all? Does anyone here look like your friends?
Kind of.
A little bit. I think that the Mexican people are beautiful. They are very friendly, they're very energetic, and all of the Mexican friends that I have are really, really kind, fun people. Is that similar to your friends?
Yeah, we have next door neighbors that are Mexican. Kind of.
That's what he's mentioning. And also they have watched some of these.
They're learning about the world with us too?
Yep, they've watched at least one and might watch this one.
And it's about Haiti.
Wow, super cool.
And this is Mexico right here.
Right on that map there, yeah. Very cool. You know, one of the things that's interesting is that you're actually not that unique in having neighbors that are Mexican. There's actually a lot of Mexican and different Hispanic people, so folks from throughout sort of the Latin and South American countries that live in the U.S. In fact, here's a map that shows what percentage of people living in the U.S. are are Hispanic, so of sort of Spanish-speaking descent within the U.S.
In ours, it's 5% or below.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is pretty small, but you can see all the countries down here by the border have a lot. So they're all over 20%. In fact, almost 20% of all the people that live in the US are Hispanic. Almost 20. It's like 17%.
That's 1/5.
So 1 out of every 5 kids in the US is Hispanic.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot.
Wow. It is a lot. And they use a different currency than we use in the US. They use something called the Mexican peso. In fact, a lot of countries all throughout South America and Latin America use the word peso instead of dollar, because peso is Spanish for dollar. So they have the Mexican peso or the Chilean peso or the Argentine peso, and this is kind of what their money looks like. A lot more colorful than the US dollar, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of fun. Their coins have multiple colors too. See? All right. One of the things that's fun with Mexico is it's a really, really old country. So similar to Egypt, they have pyramids. Their pyramids look different. They aren't quite as large as the pyramids in Egypt, and they didn't have any pharaohs, but they have these sort of ancient structures that they would build. So they had both the Mayans as well as the Aztecs that had whole civilizations that at one point in history, these were the biggest cities in the world. So you had, look at this, there's all these different sort of buildings all built up, and they're still standing there today. I actually got to go there last year and go look at these different pyramids and climb up on top of them.
Wow. How big were they?
That big one, I don't know, it took me like 2 minutes or 3 minutes to walk up to the top. So it would be like climbing up maybe 10 floors, 10 stories of stairs.
Do
maybe
people
more.
do people wrap up people and put them in the tombs?
No, I don't think they did much with mummies, but this was just sort of where they lived.
They lived in there?
Yeah, they lived all around these communities.
A long, long time ago.
A long, long time ago. Not there anymore. Now they live in major cities like Mexico City. It's one of the biggest cities in the Americas, and it is my personal favorite city in all of the Americas, from all of South America all up through to Canada. It is, along with San Francisco, one of my favorites. There's a couple others I really, really like too, but Mexico City is vibrant, it's fun, it's colorful, they have energy, it has history and modern areas. This is one of the art museums within the city. They've got this big square with an old cathedral, so a really, really old cathedral or church with an enormous Mexican flag. They have a cool castle in the middle of the city called Chapultepec. So it's an actual castle, palace, right in the middle of the city.
Do they have a king?
They don't have a king. They are a democracy like the U.S., so they elect the president. The people choose.
So the president lives in there?
The president doesn't live in the castle, I don't believe. It's more for, I think back in the past, their leader used to live there maybe. But now, I'm not sure where their president lives. But there's a lot of cities in Mexico, a lot of big cities similar to the US. And one of the ones that I thought was really cool is called Guanajuato. And it's tucked up in the mountains, and it's really, really colorful. So they have pretty paints all over lots and lots of the buildings, and it's sort of tucked into the mountains like this. If we can get a nice.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's so
funky.
pretty.
It was really neat.
How did they do all of that? How long
How did they build all the buildings?
How did they make them so colorful, and how long did it take them?
Well, I think when everyone works together, things can go pretty quickly. Like imagine if all the families came together and all decided to paint their houses. You could paint your house a different color in a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
So if everyone came together and painted their houses, it would only be a couple of days. So not too much. It's not that everyone did it at the same time, but over time, as more and more people have moved there, they've built more houses and made them very colorful. And their whole sort of culture is very colorful, lots of energy, very fun.
Yeah.
And in addition to cities, they also have beautiful beaches, so much coastline. So this is Cancun. It's one of the most popular places that people like to go for vacation. So people fly from all over the world and definitely from the US to go down to Cancun and some of the other beaches nearby. Cancun's on the east side of the country. So from Pennsylvania and a lot of the states on the east side, people like to go there. And on the west side of the country, like California, people like to fly to Puerto Vallarta, which is on the west side of the country. And Puerto Vallarta is a little bit more, it has more cliffs and it's more hilly, but they're both really beautiful. Here's a view of Puerto Vallarta. You can see it's like hotels and resorts built up right against the water with a really green mountain in the background.
Yeah, that's
Not
really
bad, right?
That's
It
really pretty.
It was indeed. They also have a really, really famous artist named Frida Kahlo. You've heard of Frida?
Yeah.
What do you know about Frida?
She painted a lot of self-portraits.
That's true. Do you know why she did so many self-portraits?
No.
She got injured when she was 18 years old. And she got injured really bad, so she couldn't really walk much anymore. It would be really painful for her to walk. And so instead, she was a really talented artist. So they would bring the art to her, the canvas to her, and she would paint on the canvas. And so she would just paint herself a lot. But she was very, very brave and a very talented artist, and was very creative and progressive as well. And so she inspired many, many women and many artists all over the world in what they create.
Yeah.
And this was her house. I went to her house when I was in Mexico City, and they have all kinds of different art, and you can see the room where she would paint in, and it was really, really pleasant. And not surprised that it's so pretty, right? For an artist.
Is she still alive, or is that?
Not anymore, but this is a place that people can go to appreciate her art and learn a little bit about her life.
So that was where she did live, and that was where she keeps all her paintings?
A lot of her paintings are there, but her paintings are also all over the world. In fact, you know how I travel all over? I do these video calls with people that I work with. And one of my bosses and good friends, he would often, he and I would send photos to one another of pictures of Frida Kahlo that we find from countries all over the world, in Mexico, in the US, in Portugal, here in Taiwan. Frida's everywhere. I actually saw a photo of Frida yesterday at the coffee shop. I could send you the photo after today's session. There was a picture of Frida.
Yeah. She has a lot of plants.
A lot of plants?
Plants.
Ah, a lot of plants, yes. Very.
Mommy, look, baby jaguar.
They have lots of animals in Mexico. And the crazy thing in Mexico is that usually jaguars live out in the rural areas in the mountains, right? But in Mexico, they live in the cities and they walk around amongst the people. So you'll just be walking down the street and you'll see a jaguar casually walking past you.
Will it jump on you?
Don't have that. No, I'm just teasing.
Do they hunt you?
I'm only kidding. They live out in the forest.
If they come into, if you go into the forest, will they try to hunt you? Like what kind of food?
Probably not. No, they don't like to eat humans. They like to eat other smaller animals. So they probably wouldn't hunt you.
It's a baby jaguar.
Food in Mexico is so good. It is so yummy. Do you guys like Mexican food?
Yes.
Tacos.
Tacos are yummy. Burritos are yummy. Enchiladas. They have mole, which is like the type of sauce. They have lots and lots of different moles and beans. They love spicy food.
Avocados and guacamole.
Oh, so much avocado and guacamole. My favorite is tagine. It's a spice that has like it's a little bit spicy and it also tastes like lime. And you can put it on all kinds of different things. You can put it on fruits. You can put it on avocados. Corn.
Is there a food in there called corn?
Corn?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have corn, also known as maize. And one of the ways that they prepare it. Oh, you had a question about it?
No.
Okay. So one of the ways they prepare it is on the cob like this. It is called elote, and they put cheese and spices and lime, and it is so yummy that if I could only eat one thing for the rest of my life, it might be elote. That'd be the only thing. It's really good. And it's really cheap, too. Really, really cheap food. They also have pan de muerto. It's a type of bread. They love to make baked goods, and so they do lots and lots of breads with sugars. Do you like bread and sugar?
They have they have a holiday called Day of the Dead.
Yeah, this is actually really popular for that holiday because pan de muerto means bread of the dead, and so they often make this for the holiday. And it's something that they might, present to the ancestors and celebrate eating themselves.
Like, what do they do at that holiday?
What do they do? Well, I've got a photo. Let me see here. Here we go. They do a lot of different things. So one of the things they do is they come out into the streets and they dress up like skeletons and they paint their faces and they make big skeleton art and they remember their ancestors. And it's all a celebration of life. It's a celebration. It's called the Day of the Dead, but it's both a remembrance of those who are no longer with us, but also a celebration of life. And it was one of my favorite holidays I've ever gotten to experience. It was really cool to be there and see both the celebration and the party that they have, but also they go to the cemeteries and they remember those who have passed away and they take photos of them and remember them and say prayers and good thoughts for their ancestors and set up candles and flowers. So it's really cool.
We've went to a graveyard before.
Some of the other things, which I think you might like, is Mexican hot chocolate. They are famous for their Mexican hot chocolate. It's creamy, it's delicious, it's smooth, and they like to make it a little bit spicy too. They put extra spices in it, so it's not just creamy and smooth. It also has a little bit of kick. Not like having hot sauce, but like it like makes your tongue tingle. So it's like chocolate tingly juice.
Like sweet.
Are you imagining it right now? How's it taste?
Good. Yummy.
I think I see a chocolate milk mustache over there on you, Hayden. Oh, it's on your nose too. You might want to wipe that off. They also, the adults like hot chocolate, but they also really like mezcal and tequila, which are two types of alcohol that are only made in Mexico. And people all around the world love this alcohol. It is made from agave plants. And let me show you what the agave plants look like. They are beautiful. Here are some fields of agave in the town of Tequila. And so they go and they take these sharp shovels and they chop off all the sharp, prickly plants on the outsides. And in the very middle, they have this thing that's a pineapple. Looks just like a pineapple. And in there, there's all this juice, tons and tons of juice and sugar. And so from inside that pineapple, they extract all the juice and they let it sit until it becomes mezcal and tequila. That's how they make it.
Whoa.
Pretty neat, right? Look at this field.
Whoa.
That seems a little over dramatic.
Not Hayden.
No, never. You know what they like to do? They like to play music. Mariachi, that's the name of it. So you can hire a mariachi band to come and just play music for you. So Quinn and Hayden, if you guys come and visit me in Mexico City someday, maybe we can hire a mariachi band and they'll follow us around and play music for us. So we can just walk around the streets having a good time, and they'll be right behind us playing that song. What do you think?
Would you like?
Yeah.
What are you getting, Quinn? A flute, a recorder.
Do it again.
Beautiful.
Nice job.
We're basically a band. We're basically a mariachi band.
Play it, but I can't really play it. I just know I can.
Well, let me tell you a story about mariachi bands. One of my friends, the last time I was back in Pennsylvania, was getting married, and she was getting married to a Mexican guy. And at the wedding, they had a surprise for everyone at the wedding, because usually when you think of a wedding in the U.S., you think of the traditional music, right? Like you have an idea of what the music might sound like at a wedding?
Yeah.
Well, what if a mariachi band showed up at your wedding and started playing that music? What do you think about that? Well, that's their culture. They like to celebrate and they like to have fun. And so, on the one hand,
What happened at the wedding?
That is what happened at the wedding. They had both types of music. So they had the calm, romantic love music, and then they had the excited, energetic love music. And it was so funny. Of the people who were there at the wedding, a lot of them were Mexican, because the husband, the groom, he was Mexican. And so when the mariachi band came, everyone stood out of their seats and started jumping around, including like the 90-year-old grandmothers and grandfathers. And they were all jumping and dancing to the music at the wedding. It was amazing.
In a wedding?
It was incredible. I can send you a video.
I like dancing, not during the ceremony part.
Yeah. It was so neat. And I'll send you a video and you will love it. Guess what sport they like? Soccer. Of course they like soccer. But they also like some other sports. They do rodeo. So rodeo and bullfighting started in Mexico, where they get on a bull and it runs around and it tries to get the human off of it. And it's a weird game. It's kind of violent, but they love it. Or at least they used to. I don't think it's as popular anymore. They also do something called lucha libre, which is basically wrestling, but it's half wrestling and half entertainment. They are really athletic and big guys, and the women do it too. Big women will go out and they'll fight each other, but they aren't really hurting each other. They're pretending to hit each other, and they're making really dramatic moves and flipping them in the air and landing on the floor. And so it's really, really wild. But people love to watch. So here's an example of a guy flying through the air.
Why why are there like skeleton faces watching?
Well, they like to have fun with it. So they will often wear these masks, both to protect their face, but also to have a personality, right? To go up there, because they're characters. It's kind of like, if you think of like cartoons, they go up and they entertain people. And so they'll take on a persona and they'll have their fighter name and all these things about them as a fighter. And yeah, they'll wear these masks.
Wow.
So that was everything I had planned for Mexico. Do you guys have any questions or other things you want to learn about with Mexico?
I know a famous soccer player from Mexico, I think.
Who?
Yeah.
Forget his name.
No. Bummer.
But I know.
I don't know.
I can go get the book. I have a book.
Do you have any questions about Mexico?
No. What do they like to do the most?
What do they like to do the most? Well, I'm not sure. I think probably the same thing that people like to do in every country, which is hang out with their friends and family, eat good food, have good conversations, enjoy hugs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but they probably aren't having any parties because of and getting together right now.
Right now because of the virus. Yeah, so they probably aren't doing too much of that right now either. But most of the world, everyone has fairly similar interests. There might be different kinds of sports, there might be different kinds of foods, but in pretty much every culture, people like to hang out with their friends and family and do fun things and make jokes and be in love with them and all that. So kind of anywhere you go, that's what people are about.
I know his name now.
What's his name?
I got it from information from in here.
Oh, Pepe.
Pele.
Yeah, Pepe is a little different. Pele, that's right. Super famous soccer player. They love him. Cool. Oh, do you guys know about churros?
No, actually.
You don't know about churros? Let me show you some churros then, because churros are an important thing to know about. Churros, Mexico chocolate sauce. It's one of the best dessert foods. It's kind of like a donut, except instead of being a circle, it's a long stick, and they'll dip it in chocolate, and it is delicious. It's covered in cinnamon sugar, and look at this. This is how they prepare it. They prepare it in this giant spiral, and then they chop it off in little stick pieces.
Whoa. Whoa.
It's kind of like a giant cinnamon roll covered in chocolate.
Yeah.
But crunchy.
Yeah.
What do you think? Want to try one?
Yes. I have a joke for you.
You have a joke for me? What's your joke?
You usually stop recording when I tell jokes.
Do you want me to stop recording?
No.
Do you want to share your joke with the world, or you want to share it just with Uncle Drew?
Uncle Drew.
Okay.
Okay.